is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 108. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, a.k.a. Lee James, a.k.a. Sebastian Drew. EC, a.k.a. Easterdamus, a.k.a. Pat E. O'Daniel, a.k.a. the Fashion Issa, a.k.a. Chili Willie, a.k.a. Joe E. Chestnut, a.k.a. Eon Stonkel. E.
Hey.
Beautiful Wednesday in Austin, Texas. How you feeling, my friend?
I am feeling quite well. You are right. It is beautiful out. I got the Mooch Man over to Mabel Davis earlier, our favorite park, to get some exercise. I've been listening back to the episodes. Obviously, got to get my Spotify rap numbers up. Only top 7% somehow. But when listening back to the episode, did you ever watch New Girl?
No, but I'm familiar.
Okay. Well, there's a very iconic episode. It's called like the Pogo episode or something. But basically it's the secrets that friends talk about behind the one friend who has this annoying habit. Okay. And you know the character Schmidt?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, Schmidt is one of the best characters on the show. And his Pogo is that he has very tough, rough toenails. And when he walks without shoes, he makes clicky-clack noises on the ground. So when listening back and hearing Mooch's clicky-clacks, it always reminds me of that episode of New Girl where they're making fun of his toenails. But he's all good now, so we shouldn't have any clicky-clacks going on in this very important free agency episode update as we approach a big week for all of MLS, including Austin FC.
Is that Jake Johnson's character?
No, that's Nick Miller. His name's Max something. Freeman? No.
Okay.
Right.
Now I'm going to look it up.
All right. I do love Jake Johnson. I can't remember his name. Max something. But yeah, his
Max Greenfield.
Yes, that's him.
There you go. Well, there's your New Girl segment.
A little entertainment podcast.
You know? Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get. There was like almost bird law discussion on Moon Tower this week.
Oh,
so, yeah, it was Landon's direct quote here. E, I'm a medium bird guy. He's a medium bird guy.
Well, he can't go toe to toe in bird law with us. That's for sure.
You kind of alluded to it. Free agency coming up next week. So we will say off the top here, North End dropping on Thursday of next week because free agency, kind of two-pronged here. Free agency opening on Wednesday the 13th. But that is also the Wembanyama versus LeBron showdown, and we are traveling to San Antonio for your birthday. North End podcast next week on Thursday. So just a heads up there for the diehards. Plenty to talk about today. Don't really have to, concoct our own BS here this week. I think there's plenty of BS that's been thrown our way. So let's go ahead and get into it here. This news coming out Wednesday morning, recording here on a Wednesday afternoon. AEG, the organizers of the 2024 Coachella Valley Invitational. Remember, that's the showcase that the team will be playing in February for the preseason. Announcing the schedule today, so we can go ahead and pull that up on the screen, the full schedule here. We'll get a couple zooms for those on the YouTube. Austin will play 3 matches out there, and you can see some of these teams. I think LAFC right now only has 1 on the schedule. So again, just kind of further trying to highlight that this is not, even though, again, you do still see in the press release the use of the word tournament, showcase, invitational, a much more apt description there. But Austin getting 3 matches here. The first one will be Wednesday, February 7th, taking on Chicago Fire. That match will kick off at 3 p.m. Central. I cannot find any information about a potential stream for this event. And so obviously if we do get news one way or the other, we'll talk about it here on the pod. But I lean towards it not being streamed at this point, to maybe get more more bodies in the gate there out in the Coachella Valley. What do you think there? I mean, maybe we can get an Austin fan to go out there and live stream the game from their phone or something.
Yeah, I was going to say there should be some good mobile device footage coming out from these games. The only thing I think of when I see Chicago Fire is hopefully getting this win so we can go back and dunk on those Chicago Fire fans who gave us the business earlier this year. So, I'm looking forward to that. In regard to this invitational, kind of tournament, warm up, preseason, get together, hoopla, whatever we want to call this festival. Going to be some good ramping up for the club here. We get to see Diego again at Sunday, 10 a.m., February 11th there. That'll be fun. Look at that Phoenix Rising Club. Is that Phoenix's team? Does he
no, so that's a USL team. So they're the only USL side in this. That went over my head. I apologize. Hey, shout out Phoenix.
Shout out Phoenix. Sorry, Phoenix. We're trying here.
Yeah. So that's their only match though out here as well. So Phoenix Rising, LAFC only playing one. You mentioned there the second matchup for Austin against the Galaxy. So that's 10 p.m. local. So that'll be noon Central Time on Sunday, February 11th. And then Austin will conclude their Coachella Valley Invitational slate against the Red Bulls Wednesday, February 14th. So a little Valentine's Day action there for the Verde and Black. And our buddy Paul over at the Verde Pendant noting that this is kind of a trio of revenge matches. Chicago booting us out of the Open Cup. Galaxy, we have not beat them in a long time. I think since the Gite Gaines goals game back in 2021. And then Red Bull beat us at Q2. We got a draw this past year. So some revenge on the menu.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's just going to be nice. I know that we might not be able to stream this, but some crumbs will come in, some footage will come in, some clips will come in. It'll just be nice to see the boys out there in the Verde and Black doing their thing, getting ready for this 2024 year.
Yeah. So we've got ticket prices right now. I don't believe they're on sale yet. I think it's tomorrow on Thursday, the 7th. This is there's pre-sale, or when the pre-sale goes live. These are tickets for the entire event. You can get in for $140 for the, it's 2 weeks. I think it's 6-7 days there that we saw. And then there's a note at the bottom here that I did not notice. St. Louis matches to be announced at a later date. So I guess potentially we could face off against St. Louis during that period as well. But I'd imagine it's maybe one of those teams that has one or two matches on the schedule that will be facing off against the reigning Western Conference regular season champs there in St. Louis. So $140 is going to get you in for the whole event, and then $840 for the VIP event pass E, which will include VIP parking, hospitality tent with food, open bar for those VIPs. You get VIP bathrooms. So if you're so inclined, you've got the cash to splash around out there. There's your VIP status, open bar VIP bathrooms. Not bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad. If anybody ends up going and, experiences the VIP package, let us know. We have some interest in going. I don't know if we'll be able to make it out there. I'm actually trying to get properly for next year because, $200 on beer once a week.
Yeah, sometimes twice.
It's just not in my my pay grade.
Yeah, and it's crazy that's only 3 beers a game. Yeah, so, and I don't know, man. I feel like we should budget for regular season travel if we're going to do that, right? Just thinking about some of the lineups that we saw in preseason last year, I don't know if, I feel like it would just be worth it to go out there and do other things rather than go to these games. So we had talked about on last week's episode the possibility that Hector Jimenez would be coming back to the team as a player coach. And while that was not confirmed, and I talked to Phil West, our good buddy, he said the team did not confirm or deny the chance that Hector could be participating in that professional development program. But the club did exercise Hector's option, so he remains under contract with the club through 2024. Of course, remaining on that veteran minimum contract, supplemental roster spot. So there was definitely some Austin fans that were, I guess, a little bit perplexed, wanting the club to maybe aim higher, supplemental spot or not. What are your thoughts on Hector, confirmed now, returning to Austin FC?
It's not something that I'm going to jump up and down for, but obviously in the supplemental position at the salary that he is currently at, there is definitely worse ways to spend that money. I don't know if you necessarily find somebody who's going to make a huge impact out there for us on or in that supplemental role at a pay level that Hector is receiving. And, we broke down that, is there an official name for that program, player coach progression?
Yeah, I think I don't have the rules and regulations pulled up. Give me 2 seconds here.
So, obviously not something that anyone is super excited about, but, there's also just been a lot of confusion surrounding our ability to sign guys or announce things, at certain times. And I just want people to understand. And if you already understand this and get this, we cannot open up these signings until the window is available, y'all.
Yeah.
That needs to happen first before we can go and start spending this money elsewhere. So for Hector, I like I said, we don't get to see him much out on the pitch, right? But we do know that he brings a lot to the team, to the club. Mm-hmm. He's a professional. He obviously has this kind of career path in mind, trajectory of being a coach, and that I think that's a good thing in regard to being able to provide a little tutelage to these younger fellas on the supplemental roster spots as well. And, just help these dudes be professionals. And that's just a huge part of being a professional athlete that a lot of dudes miss out on or don't have the opportunity to learn from somebody who has experience, and it ends up costing them. So I understand why we want to bring Hector back. Don't expect to see him play, but that's okay. We're filling out a roster. We're filling out a club. We're trying to bring in high-level quality individuals, and I think Hector Jimenez is definitely one of those people.
Tutelage is a great word. So pat on the back for you. Player professional development role is the official title of that rule. So pulling up the current roster spots here, we've got Hector locked into that 4th supplemental spot. Again, I don't have that separated out with the 21 to 24, 25 to 20, whatever the different categories of where you can put those supplemental guys. So that has us with 6 open supplemental roster spots and 4 senior spots, not counting pick 5 coming up in 2 weeks, and including Romania and Gite there, who are still out on loan. And of course, the team has to fill 18 senior spots by the start of the 2024 season. I think I'm pretty much with you. Like, I'm not jumping up and down that Hector is back, but I'm certainly not upset because it takes time to build out these supplemental spots, like some of the better clubs do around the league. Looking at what a team like Philadelphia, a team like LAFC, right? Some of the teams that I think we consider the class of the league. Those teams have built out their supplemental roster spots with draft picks and most of all, homegrown players. Mm-hmm. And that's just what's going to take time for us. So I think down the road, maybe even next week, we can talk about like, how do we expedite that process? Like, I think the easy answer is Micah Burton, right? Would be, to me, that first homegrown, or that next homegrown rather, that we would be potentially signing to one of these supplemental spots. But I think that's maybe a discussion for another day. Glad Hector's back. I think, again, like the fact that whether he's officially in that development role or not as a player coach, sometimes it can be easier to have that bridge between the coaching staff and the players with that player coach. Like, he's almost like a graduate assistant, I feel like, in that sense. But like the fact that he's still a player and he's out there doing the drills, he's doing the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month grind of a season. You can just maybe provide a different perspective to players and again, help be that bridge between the staff and the player personnel.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, him going through training, him doing practice and stuff like that, that just gives you a different level of insight into what the players are experiencing, how they're feeling at the current time, So it's just interesting with these supplemental roles because obviously you have like the two farthest ends of the spectrum. You have the younger guys who we're filling out with these spots. And then as well, you have some like veteran dudes like Hector there. So it's going to be interesting to see how we fill that out. And I don't know. I'm pretty excited about that 2024 round 1 pick 5 sitting there.
Yeah. And we'll talk some more about the combine is underway. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But what I was doing as I was kind of blathering about supplemental spots is I kind of had just a discussion with myself in LDR a few days back about this supplemental roster and looking at LAFC. They had 9 of their 10 supplemental spots filled this year, obviously still playing MLS Cup Final this coming Saturday. 5 of those 9 are homegrown designated players. 2 of them are non-homegrown, but they're backup goalkeepers, including John McCarthy. So I think that's another thing is that teams being able to use their supplemental spots for their backup keeper rather than having a Matt Bersano on the senior roster. That's something that I think is ideal. Again, it's not necessary to win a title, but just from a roster construction standpoint, that seems smart to me. The other 2 guys on that LAFC supplemental roster are Crisostomo, who's 26. He's on a vet minimum deal, so again, not counting against their cap, and he's been able to play spot minutes for them. And then the younger Gaines, whose name I believe is Julian, played a lot with LAFC 2 this past year, but did play some cup minutes for them in the Open Cup, and I think some spot minutes in other games or competitions. The Union, which if you look at their roster, we know that the rosters online are managed by the league and can be inaccurate completely at times. So in Philly, they have 7 supplemental spots used out of the 10. And then Pierre is designated supplemental spot 31, which does not exist. So I don't know what's up with that. I didn't look too deep in that, but I did check out their supplemental spots. Those 7 that they've used, again, 5 of them, just like LAFC, are homegrown designated. And then the other 2, one is their backup keeper. They've only got 2 on the roster, and the other is Chris Donovan. And Chris Donovan, to me, speaks to how good Philly are at roster building and how important these supplemental spots are just in this narrow prism of Chris Donovan. They got 18 appearances and 4 starts from him this year. He was a 3rd-round pick in the December 2021 draft by Columbus, who cut him in preseason. Philly picked him up. He played with Union 2 and crushed it there for a few months in Next Pro, signed with the first team in June 22, and been with the first team ever since. And so, again, like 5 homegrown designated, their backup keeper, and then this guy, Chris Donovan, who's 23 years old, and all those guys play for them.
Yeah.
So again, our homegrowns, Owen and Damian Loss. I believe those are our only 2. And again, that, like I said, that takes time to build that up, through your academy, through your Next Pro club and the like.
I mean, looking at that, looking at the 4 we have in there, it's like, I don't know every supplemental, roster designations for the entire league, but we know Owen Wolf is a quality starting MLS player in this league. Like we got that going for us. CJ Fadre, if he can take a step next year, that's something to be really, really fucking excited about. And then obviously we've seen what Damian Loss can do. We know that he is a great talent, a wonderful prospect. And you look at, like you said right there, with having your backup keeper being on a supplemental role, it makes for a more efficient roster build. Because then Bersano's out of there, that contract's off the books. You're not paying Damian, and we have that extra spot. So I'm with you. I think that the foundation to have a good supplemental roster is there. Like I said, I mentioned those 3 guys at the top of the list. Owen, CJ, Damian. Those are 3 contributors that will actually have impact on the field for the first team. So hoping that we can, eventually flesh this out even more with some homegrown kids who are some talents. Love to see Micah take that step as well. He just turned 17. Yes?
I think he just turned 18.
18? Okay.
But Micah, no, you're correct. 17. right now, born in March. So we'll turn 18 at the beginning of next season, essentially.
Sweet, man. So look, that is a spot where we can try to move him up and get some minutes out of him in cup games or what have you, get him that experience. That eventually, you're looking at a year or two down the road, the kid's about to turn 20 and we have something that we can get that really bears fruit for us. So it's going to take some time, but I do think that the foundation is there to have one of these top tier supplemental, 10 roster designations that make an impact for our first team.
Yeah, so obviously we'll keep our eyes on that free agency, end of year waivers, reentry process next week. So we can check in on that in a second. Real quick, CONMEBOL announced that Q2 Stadium will be one of 14 stadiums to host Copa America group stage matches this coming summer. Extremely excited for that. I think just obviously across the country for a tournament like this to be in North America this coming summer. So at Q2, right, it's one of 3 soccer specific stadiums that will host matches. We won't be getting the U.S. national team. We're not getting Brazil. We're not getting Argentina. It's too small of a venue for that. We have the list of teams that we could see. Some of them have already qualified, and some of them having play-in matches in the coming weeks and months. One team that we already know we could see is Venezuela, and another team fighting for a play-in spot right now that could end up at Q2 are the Costa Ricans. So there is a small potential for Dani against Julio in the Copa America at Q2 Stadium. I think that's the dream scenario for all Austin FC fans.
Yeah, that would be sweet. No matter what we get, it's going to be good soccer. It's going to be good footy. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can snag some tickets for that. But, man, that would be sweet to see Dani repping the colors as well as Julio out there and letting them go at it.
Yeah. Information on tickets will be provided at a later date because this is a CONMEBOL controlled event, I assume. I doubt we're getting any sort of pre-sale bump here as season ticket holders or Oak Collective members. But the tournament, June 20th to July 14th, in those 2 group stage matches will be Sunday, June 30th and Tuesday, July 2nd. So getting in there before that 4th of July Willie picnic at Q2, which seems to be an annual thing now. Anything else for you here on Copa America news?
No, sir.
All right, moving on here. Dani speaking of Dani, he is confirmed off to play in Miami this weekend. I believe this is with the U23 squad. And I think this friendly against Colombia is part of their pre-Olympic build-up here, or ramp-up rather. So we know that he's not, going to be participating with the Olympic team, but the fact that they're keeping him in mind, again, I think is just great news for him and the future of him with his national team. And rumors that his asylum status issues could be figured out by February or March. So that would be good news for club and country.
Yes, that would be awesome. Hoping that works out.
Yeah, good luck to Dani and La Vinotinto out there in Miami this week. Let's check in real quick on the off-season calendar, and I'll pull this up here on the screen for the YouTube watchers as well. We'll get a couple zooms. And you see Wednesday, December 6th. That's today, the Combine underway out there in Phoenix, Arizona. Unfortunately for us, the D-Gens, the diehards, closed door event, but staffs from all 29 teams out there, scouting the top prospects. And we know that is an expanded field this year. So I want to put that on the back burner here just for a second to look at what we've got coming down the pipe here with MLS and the off-season schedule in full. I found this very interesting, I guess is for lack of a better term. Cup final on Saturday. The deadline to announce option decisions for Columbus and for LAFC is Sunday, the next day. Can you imagine winning a championship and then the next day the team's like, well, you're out. That would that's brutal, man.
Yeah, like it's the best way to go out, right? Like when I got laid off, I got the severance package, see you later.
I guess you're right. It's crazy how quick it moves here.
It just seems like everything is still trying to catch up with the COVID season and now the expansion stuff that's going on as well in regards to potential rules.
Winter World Cup last year.
Yeah, there's just a lot. So hopefully we can tighten this up. But that would be that'd be quite the wake up call.
Yeah. So looking here on Monday, 8 a.m. Central, trade window opens. So that will end the 3-month roster freeze in MLS. So I would imagine that day we get Nick Lima traded officially to the New England Revolution, and probably a flurry of other trades that may or may not have been reported or announced quite yet. The next day, Tuesday, December 12th, by 4 p.m. Central, the end of year waivers process will be conducted and conclude by 5 p.m. Eastern there, in reverse order of the 2023 season finish. So we have 5th priority in the waiver order. And again, eligible for selection here in the waiver process are players who do not meet the minimum requirements for reentry or free agency. So December 12th is potentially the first day that we could see a new member of the Verde and Black. So we'll, of course, keep our eyes on that. Waivers last year, I believe, is where we got Alfonso Ocampo Chavez off of Seattle, who had placed him on waivers.
Okay, very nice. I'm looking forward to it.
13th, again, next Wednesday, free agency opens at noon Central. That's when clubs can engage with players other than their own that are eligible for free agency. And again, we will be next week's episode on Thursday, just because if we do our midday recording there, we're probably going to miss something that we want to talk about. So we'll have that full first day recap of free agency coming on Thursday. And of course, that's the big show in all of this, MLS hullabaloo here coming next week. Thursday, reentry process, stage 1. Of course, there's 2 stages. Second one comes after the draft. Also conducted in reverse order of 2023 season finish. Eligible players are those who are at least 22 years old, minimum 1 service year, and not eligible for free agency. Out of contract player who has received a bona fide offer from his club will not be eligible for the reentry draft. This is where last year we acquired Sofiane Jafal. We had to trade up to the number 1 spot with DC. Believe we sent them $50K in GAM to get that spot. And, I wish we had it back.
I sure wish we had it back as well.
And then Tuesday, December 19th, Super Draft, 2 p.m. Central is the start there. You can be certain to look out for a live stream here on the North End Podcast YouTube feed on draft day. And speaking of the draftee, let's talk a little bit more about the combine. Again, that is today through Saturday out there in Phoenix. And you know that I've got a tab on our trusty spreadsheet here with all of the participants and some notes here. We've been getting to work on the prospects that are out there. And again, this is a much larger field than we're used to at this collegiate showcase, because until this year, it was only seniors and grad students. Now it's open to sophomores and juniors. And we've got 2 freshmen in there, which says to me, those are GA designated players when that player pool gets dropped before the draft on the 19th. So let's go through some of these. You can see we've got names, position, where they're currently playing in the NCAA, their classification year in college. And then we've got their top drawer soccer rank. And again, this is from the mid-season rank. So I've got some notes here. We talked about Matthew Bell, right? That was your guy last week when we were just looking at the upperclassmen rankings. He's 2nd in the top drawer soccer rankings, the midseason rankings. We're waiting for those postseason rankings, and maybe they come out after this weekend. Matthew Bell was preseason number 56, so did well for himself this season. We talked about his stats last year. Kevin Bonilla is out there. That's that FC Dallas homegrown. he jumped from preseason 31 to number 4. Roberto Ordonez, who was unranked in the preseason after sitting out 2022 with his back injury, he's out there, the number 1 ranked player in the midseason top drawer soccer rankings. I've got a couple guys here that I do want to highlight. We'll talk about those freshmen here in a second. I do want to shout out, and when I always say Logan from LDR, I'm talking about Logan, and this is my best attempt, Okwa. It's French last name there, so maybe you could do it better than I, but Logan played at UMHB himself, so, collegiate soccer alum. He watches college soccer and also been watching some film on those teams that were in the tournament, some of their best players. And one guy that he mentioned, it was Logan, myself, and our buddy Mike Cremiola discussing some of the prospects last week I think the day after we dropped last week's episode. And he brought up a fellow by the name of Alec Hughes, who is here at the showcase, preseason number 97, and then midseason ranked 13th. And this was somebody that last week we did not talk about, we did not highlight at all, but Logan had mentioned in our thread there in the LDR Slack group. So I want to credit him here for finding Alec Hughes while he was just watching soccer, watching film. Hughes was the 2022 in his junior season, the Atlantic 10 co-offensive player of the year, an A10 first team selection. U.S. coaches, all regions, second team, led the A10 in goals on the year with 10 3-game winners last year in his junior season. This year, offensive player outright. No co-offensive player, just the offensive player of the year. He started all 19 of his appearances for UMass in the A10, 15 goals, 1 assist in his right about 1,500 minutes there for his career, 65 appearances for UMass, 55 starts, 35 goals, and 7 assists. So Alec Hughes, I think somebody that should also be on our radar, just because, the rise that he had in those ranks from preseason to midseason, obviously a great year, back-to-back A10 Offensive Player of the Year. He's definitely one of the top senior forwards for sure at the event right now.
That's the only thing that, I have not done the same due diligence that Logan has on this kid. But when we did attend the good old Fighting Leslie's Drinking Club holiday boat event.
And shout out FLDC. Great time.
Aggie, that was a great time. We did have a conversation with Landon there. And we were chatting about these prospects in this draft coming up. And I am just still of the mindset that you want to target these younger dudes. You want to target these guys who are freshmen and and sophomores. So for me, it's still Matthew Bell. I noticed that freshman kid there at the top that you have from Ghana. That seems like an interesting prospect for me. One of these dudes who like Alec Hughes, again, he's got to be 22 right now?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Got to be at least 22. And not to make a straight line comparison with him and the likes of someone like Captain Joe, but you get these older kind of guys, and it's so funny to talk about someone who's 22 and say older.
Yeah.
But you get them, and they're more of a finished product. They've reached, or they've approached their ceiling as much as possible. If you've been in 4 years of collegiate soccer, someone, not that people can't fall through the cracks and you find some hidden gems somewhere, but nobody has noticed you enough to the point where it's like, we're going to try to make you a bona fide offer already, where you can enter this portal early. So for me, I'm still looking at the younger guys, the Matthew Bell. If you could scroll up and give me that kid's name.
Yeah, but we'll talk about him here in a second.
Oh, okay.
We're getting into these freshmen here because I think these are the dudes here.
Yeah. So, I'm very interested to see how this draft goes and what we target. I would assume we're going younger.
Yeah. Well, so the only thing, and again, this is just one example. So Duncan McGuire is not the norm, but Duncan McGuire, 4-year guy at Creighton, so it can be done, right? And I did see this morning some Euro interest in Duncan McGuire, apparently, not from the top flight leagues, but certainly turning heads in his first year with Orlando City, 13 regular season goals there for Duncan. Let's talk about these two freshmen, though. The first one I want to talk about, Kamani Stewart-Baines, and Stewart-Baines playing for the Terps there out the University of Maryland, currently 52nd ranked in the Top Drawer Soccer freshman ranking. So I thought it was very interesting that and maybe that changes when we get the postseason freshman rankings here in the next week or so. So Kamani Stewart-Baines, Canadian, there for the Terps, 5'8", 160 are the physical measurements there on Stewart-Baines. Some cool notes, and you can see them somewhat here. Canadian, 14 appearances, 11 starts for Maryland, 3 goals, 7 assists, ran an 11-second 100-meter dash at age 17. So, I mean, the top 1% in the world in terms of his speed. N'Keal Harry's brother, and he has another brother who is named Kamal Stewart-Baines, who runs track for the Hurricanes down there in Miami. So very successful athletic family, freshman there for the Terps. I think we'd be probably pretty happy with Kamani Stewart-Baines as a forward prospect, and likely a GA designated player.
I mean, shit. N'Keal Harry's brother, that is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And like you said, these freshmen who are, entered into this combine, they already have bona fide offers on the table, right?
I think, well, once you get tagged with the Generation Adidas designation, that means you have a guarantee from at least one team where if you're available at their pick, they are then obligated to draft that player. And again, that guarantees them a professional contract, I think, for at least 1 year.
I mean, look, for a while, we have been clamoring for some breakaway speed. For some athleticism that just we don't have to be overly talented if we can get the ball over the top to you and you can get a one-on-one with the keeper. So you see those numbers on the 100-meter dash. That's awesome. Obviously, the athletic profile tracks all the way through the other brothers there as well. And we need some more brothers on this team. So I'm looking forward to Kamani Stewart-Baines, checking him out a little bit, man. 3 goals, 7 assists. That's interesting for a striker there.
Yeah. So then let's talk about Stephen Honor Giamfi. Okay. This to me, this is maybe the number 1 pick here. So I don't know if he'll be around for us. Out of Ghana, 6', 140, ACC Freshman of the Year, ACC first team, 19 appearances, 18 starts, 10 goals, 0 assists.
I like it.
Yeah, tore up the UPSL in 2022, 12 goals in just 6 games. I think that's like 3rd division or semi-pro soccer. He's trained with the Canadian first team. And so I'm talking to Logan today, and I drop his bio in there, and he goes, believe it or not, I was watching Stephen Honor Giamfi film last night. And so I have some notes here from Logan. He says he thinks the thing that separates Honor Giamfi from the rest of the freshmen or GA potential players is that, number 1, he's more athletic than every single one of them. Number 2, his movement is that of a pro striker. Almost every goal he's seen him make has been going past a CB from a run in behind, around the corner, or off the shoulder. He doesn't move like you would expect a freshman in college to move, and he says almost every goal he scored has been one touch in the box, either footed or a header out jumping a center back. And again, 6 foot there for Honor Giamfi. It says doesn't know what his dribbling or combo play looks like because all of his highlights are just bangers. But he says if we have a chance to grab him at 5, a kid like that as a freshman in the ACC, he says you absolutely have to take him. And something that I noticed that Logan also pointed out, he has not declared a major at UVA, probably because he is guaranteed to be drafted highly here. And also pointed out, we have another Virginia Tech kid. So same, or we have a Virginia Tech kid in Dani P.
This is for University of Virginia, though.
No, I know. I'm saying just same area out there. Just, we've had some success. All
right. That's quite the reach there. 6 foot 140. What a frame. Oh man. But yeah, like you're saying there while you're breaking that down, this is one of the prospects you want to get. And if he has that type of positioning already, that acumen to be in the box, to find himself in advantageous positions, and on top of that, the athleticism to boot, yeah, that's my number one on the board. Having not watched film on Matthew Bell or this other Alec Hughes kids that we've mentioned here, but just you look at the profile. This is the information that we have here. I don't know how much credence I give to the Top Drawer soccer rankings because I just don't know enough what goes into it. I don't know enough of the standards that they're looking for, the benchmarks to rank these guys. And then you look at a dude like Ordonez there, and I think I'm completely out on that. I don't want a 22-year-old coming off back surgery. I'm sorry. He might be a great player. Again, I haven't seen him play either, but like a 22-year-old coming off back surgery already doesn't fit the profile of a 6 foot, 140-pound Ghanaian forward who was the freshman of the year for ACC, 10 goals in 19 appearances. So, man. And look, that's a position of need, and, when I've been racking my brain in the downtime that I have trying to figure out who I would like to see and what we would want to see from this offseason, I keep coming back to a striker, a forward, a goal scorer, somebody who's just a hawk. And looking at the recent stuff that Miami has done, God, I want Leo Campagna. I don't know how, if we could potentially pry him away from there. But that would be my top spot. And then if you could fill that out with, like, if you have Campagna, G, and then you throw in one of these prospects as well with potential for Fodre up front, it's a very nice looking platter.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that we do have is we'll get rid of that rankings spreadsheet there and bring up the draft order for the draft on the 19th. Toronto up top. Colorado has 2 and 4. They've got the Galaxy's first rounder that was in the Michael Barrios trade this past summer window, and Inter Miami sitting there at 3. So to me, Colorado probably going to use both of those picks on high upside guys. Toronto as well, as they go through a rebuild. I think pick 3 could be up for trade, and moving up 2 spots, you probably don't have to give up hardly anything to do it. So like to me, if you've got one of those freshmen or you've got a guy like Matthew Bell available at 3, again, one of those 3 will be available if we can move up, or we've got intel that they're going to fall to us at 5. I think that's where I am with you right now as well. You'll notice on that list, no Garrison Tubbs, and Landon definitely convinced me last week that maybe shouldn't be our top target as much as I want to have the jerseys with Tubbs flying off the shelves. So we'll see. Draft coming up, less than 2 weeks until the big day. Again, I know that you don't typically get MLS All-Stars out of this draft, but it's still going to be a big part of our future here if we grab another generation Adidas guy.
I mean, it's just an opportunity to infuse more talent onto the roster, and I'm all for that. If we can pull off some sort of deal with Inter Miami there, get Campagna and that 3rd pick, let's do it.
So we mentioned in our academy what's that?
Don't expect that, y'all. I'm just out here dreaming a little bit. All right.
Yeah, we're having fun. We mentioned in the Academy update last week that Austin FC Academy was hosting the El Arbolito Cup this past weekend, and we kind of got the day-by-day breakdown here from some of our Academy sources. So on Friday morning, 12s went to PKs, 1-1, and 1. The 13s won 2-0. Our buddy Tyler Elston had a goal from almost midfield and an assist on the second goal in that 2-0 victory. So it feels like every time we're getting one of these updates, it's also coming along with a Tyler goal or assist.
I was going to say, get that homegrown tag on that boy.
Yeah, right. Crushing it. 14s won 3-2. All 3 of those games were over FC Cincinnati. In the afternoon window, 12s won in PKs after a 1-1 draw. The 13s lost in PKs in the 8th round. That was a 0-0 draw in full time. 14s won 1-0. All of those over the Rapids. Saturday morning window, 12s take an L 2-1 against Orlando City. 13s won in PKs after a 0-0 draw in regulation. That was the 7th round, and the 14s lost 3-1 against the Chicago Fire. Saturday evening window, 12s won against Dynamo 1-0, so we love to see that. 13s won 2-0 over Chicago Fire. 14s beat Houston 2-1. So that set up all of the teams into the final of the El Arbolito Cup. And then on Sunday, U12s take down FC Dallas 1-0 in the championship. U13s were down 2-0 to Houston. But Lucho Arellano, and that is Brian's little brother from ATX2.
Nice.
Lucho scores 2 before the half to level things up, and then Austin's U13s win in PKs 4-2. 2 big saves by keeper Kendrew Reyes, and then the 14s take down FC Cincinnati 2-1. So Austin FC's academy sweeps the tournament, and apparently some decent home support out there at the pitch as well. So we talked about last week. You get back on the horse, you look to the next game, next tournament. You're going to see those Dynamo bastards again. You're going to see FC Dallas, and they take care of business, man. Good weekend for Austin FC.
That's awesome. Congrats to us for propelling them to victory with our encouraging words.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a good job by us as well. So not much else to talk about here. I guess we can discuss a little bit. We got together, watched the conference finals in the MLS playoffs last weekend. The second game, the nightcap, LAFC takes down the Houston Dynamo 2-0 out there in LA. Yeah, double bird to Houston. We were big LA fans there. We cannot cheer for Houston. But that game to me was not nearly as entertaining as the first one. The Hell is Real derby there. Cincy hosting the Columbus Crew. Cincy going up 2-0 right before the half, get the second goal on the final kick of the half off what was, for some reason, a controversial foul and free kick. I thought it was pretty clearly a foul, at least on replay. And then Cincy gets a third, called back for offside. 2 minutes later, Columbus gets an own goal. Then they get the equalizer, and then they get the winner in extra time. So fantastic match to watch as a neutral. And I also was having both dreams and nightmares, shout out Meek Mill, of like being on either side of that. Can you imagine like it against, like we saw against Dallas last year? We're on top of the world when we beat them in the playoffs, but taking an L like that to end your season, especially at home, just absolute horror show there. And to have it happen, the game script, the way it played out, just absolutely brutal for those Cincy fans. But, you know, they can rest on their supporter shield and build off that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a gut-wrenching loss. Obviously, Cincinnati's been one of the top teams, or, you know, the season's still going. They've been one of the top teams all season. And to lose in that fashion to a rival, tough. But I'm glad it didn't happen to us, and I'm glad he lost.
Well, shit, I'd rather that happen to us than us be bored for the last 8 weeks not having any soccer.
I'll take a Houston loss.
So that does set up Columbus to host the 2023 MLS Cup Final. LAFC coming to town. Odds to win the cup right now, Columbus, pretty big favorites, -155 there on the DK Sportsbook. LAFC +125 to win the cup. And so combining this talk with some nonsense and the bets, looking at last week, MLS parlay falls through. Cincy doesn't get it done. NFL teaser does not come through because Philly does get whooped at home by the Niners. And so for the MLS side of things, we're still holding that Columbus +1,200 to win the cup. So we're just going to ride with that.
Yep.
Let's go, Crew. And I think even if we didn't have the cash down on that, I would be cheering for Columbus regardless.
100%.
Yeah.
That.
Your boy.
That's what's happening with those odds right there. It's a Darlington Nagby boost.
Yep. All right, so this is going to be the last week of the bets. We will take the offseason off. Going to be a lot more MLS news to talk through as we did last season going forward once free agency opens next week. So why don't we throw 2 more NFL teasers, try to improve the units, which are now down to negative 48 and some change after missing last week. I'll toss it to you. I know we both concocted a little 3-team teaser here. What do you got for me to close out our awful year of betting?
Well, there's always next year. I'll wipe the slate clean and maybe have a shadow total running going on in the background. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yes, let's hit these NFL bets. I'm starting off with this 3-team teaser for the D-Gens. Tennessee Titans going into Miami. Obviously, they're not a good team. Miami, a good team. Original line is -13 for Miami. You add 6 to that, you get them down to -6. I assume that they can beat the Titans.
You said you added 6.
I'm sorry. You add 7, you get it down to 6.
There you go.
There we go. I'm assuming they can beat them by a touchdown. Carolina Panthers, who are just an absolute abomination, are going into New Orleans, who still, despite some, unfortunate play as of late, have a good defense. They have skilled players across the field, so they're at -5. Add 7 to that, get them +2. Philly going into Dallas. This one's for all the haters out there. +3.5. Jump that up to +10.5. Lock those Eagles in, baby.
All right. So what's the 7.3-way teaser? What odds are you getting on that?
Yeah, +130.
Okay, +130 on that. How many units you putting down?
I don't know, 100. Just one.
Okay, just one on that. And we'll see about those Eagles. I know you don't have an NFL team, but if you had to cheer for one, I feel like it's Philly. I feel like that's your squad kind of.
I mean, growing up, I was an Eagles fan. I had to get off that train when they brought Vic in, but he has done a lot of incredible work, and has paid his debts to society. So I have no ill will towards Mike Vick, but at the time, as a vegetarian man, it just wasn't for me. So I did abandon the Eagles. But yeah, I'll still throw a battery at Santa Claus.
All right. Let me close it out. My own little 3-way teaser here. We're going back with 5 units on this again, E. I feel, I'm not letting the Eagles deter me last week. We're starting Thursday night. Steelers, Patriots, Mitch Trubisky, Bailey Zappi, maybe Malik Cunningham. Who knows? When you put up the little TV graphic for this one, trying to hype the game up, I think you're probably putting Tomlin and Belichick up there as the 2 most exciting pieces of this one. Well, what we're going to do is take that total of 30, tease it up 10 points to 40, and take the under. There might not be 40 yards in this game. Then we're going to go to San Francisco, hosting the Seahawks. Divisional matchup there. Niners, 10.5-point favorites. We get them down to half-point favorites, so essentially getting Niners to win there. And then Jaguars, Browns. We're going to take the over of 30.5, tease that down to 20.5, and all 3 of those together, -120, putting 5 units on that. So that wraps up the 2023 betting slate. We'll get those results next week. Hopefully, if Columbus wins and we hit these teasers, we are down below that 40-unit mark, and we'll feel just a little bit better about ourselves.
If not, we can just keep moving those goalposts and take it up to the next digit.
Yep. Well, that'll do it here for episode 108 of the North End podcast. If you've got 5 extra seconds to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, we would greatly appreciate it. And all your Austin FC friends, name drop the North End podcast. Help us grow the pod in that manner. And of course, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to know when a live stream pops up 2 weeks from now, or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. We will be back next Thursday breaking down everything that happens in the Austin FC universe, the trade window, waivers, free agency, and maybe we've got that GA class next week too. I mean, we really hit the ground running with the offseason next week. This is what we have been waiting for. So I am excited for next Thursday.
Gonna be fun, man. Gonna be a lot of fun.
All right, everybody. Enjoy your weekend, and we hope to see you back here next Thursday. Until then, easy. I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.